What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for Rumble in the Jungle on Missed Opportunities. Brian, let's hear the invitation.
Missed Opportunities is the map where we have to clear out terrazine geysers for Stetmann's bots to harvest. Then we have to protect said bots from enemies. If we lose more than one bot on brutal difficulty, we lose the game. Extra enemy waves drop every few minutes. All enemies are cloaked. Circles appear that can freeze your guys inside.
Okay, so we have Zero and Sticksbender caller today. How are you guys?
Doing fine.
Doing fine.
Hello.
Okay, so Sticksbender, how do we rank the commanders this week?
Let's see. So, the biggest problem is the fact that you will have to deal with additional waves dropping to attack around the area. Well, since they drop on top of your army, they'll be dropping around the area of the bots, because that's where your army has to be when the bots are harvesting, because the attack waves spawn not that far away from the bots. They come very quickly. There's a lot of just generally having to be very on top of attack waves on this map in order to not lose a bot in record time, depending on enemy composition.
Yes.
And then the other problem is that they're invisible, so you can't be caught without detection ever. So the ability to just summon detection immediately is going to be worth bonus points for any character who can do that.
Agree.
But, you know, as classically the problem, the requirement to, have temporary detection for one specific character in particular will be worth negative points.
I wonder which character that is. How many commanders have temporary
Who
detection?
Could it be? Being able to summon detection, good. Being able to summon units, also, or units, buildings, or whatever, also pretty good. And generally just being able to get places fast, pretty good. That's mostly going to be the problem with most missed opportunities mutations, is just being able to get there quick response team.
The best ability is availability.
Sorry.
The best ability is availability.
Yes.
How about you, Zero?
Yeah, Sticksbender pretty much said everything. Of course, being able to help your ally relatively easy, with space lasers or just repairing them would also help them not get butchered by the aggressive deployment waves. So that will help.
I was also about to say, you don't technically need detection if you can deal damage without actually seeing. For, some specific commanders can just, spread damage all around. Let's
wave their arms angrily, perhaps.
Something like that. Let's begin.
Before moving on, I will note, I'd say most commanders are going to be in high tiers this mutation, because this is a relatively easy mutation if you are with a duo. If you are soloing, it's a bit more annoying, purely because of the mechanics of how aggressive deployment works.
It's really annoying. They destroy your
with aggressive
space.
Deployment, it sends a wave to each player's army, and since your ally isn't there, it sends a wave to the base.
Yes.
So you just have to constantly be ready to deal with waves that just drop on top of your forehead in your base.
In a solo, your ally's base is pretty much an extra bot, an extra harvesting bot that never moves. So you also have to protect that.
Yeah.
And it gets annoying when the other bots are far apart and you don't have mobile armies. Anyway, that's digressing too much. Abathur, where do we have him?
Abathur, so his early game will not be affected much. You should have a spore crawler anyway for detection from your first luring. So for the first wave, you'll just have a spore crawler and a brutalist, and good luck getting past that. For your base, you should probably also make a spore crawler, just so you can deep tunnel there with your brutalist to handle any waves. You can also help your ally that way, because deep tunnels are really low cooldown. For the late game, I think you'll just spam Ravagers. You don't even need Overseers with those guys, they just pile down everything. So yeah, he's good pretty much all stages. You have to be slightly careful, so you're Overseers when pushing and Spore Crawlers for defending don't get sniped, but other than that, I think he's really good. So I have him A tier.
Overseers can get sniped very easily. How about you, Sticksbender?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing, except I would personally recommend just having copious detection anyways, even if you are using Ravagers. Having to bile each and every single unit is, especially against certain enemy comps where they have fast units like Mutalisks and Zerglings and whatnot, it can be particularly annoying. Yeah. So just do generally have detection of both flavors. I would recommend, because Abathur can in fact just summon creep tumor anywhere on the map. It's a creep tumor that explodes, but you can summon creep tumor anywhere on the map, which means you can then go ahead and just slap down spore crawlers and spine crawlers galore around all the bot locations. And especially towards the late game, missed opportunity slows way the heck down, so you have plenty of time to set those buildings up too a lot of the times.
Yeah. And when you're able to clear everything, you can probably just spawn camp them with toxic nests and stuff, depending on how good you and your ally are.
Static defense.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's kind of wonky if they're air units, because they'll kind of destroy, the spore crawlers that you have left there. So you still need defenses, but that's fine. Okay, so
spore crawlers dying in air unit sounds like an issue of not enough spore crawlers.
That's true, but for most players, there's like a sort of how do I put this? There's an issue of not having enough attention to go around, or presence of mind to spam buildings where you want to spam them before you need to spam them.
That's a good way of putting it. I'd say that, honestly, if you are not ahead enough to spawn camp, putting them around the bots is generally easier, because that's where your army wants to be, is around the bot, instead of having to swing back and forth between spawn points.
That's true. Another thing I experienced is sometimes the enemies, if your ally is idle, for example, and they're not really contributing, and they just like having their army inside their base for most of the game, they sometimes spawn where the bots are. So you wanna have something available at the bots all the time. Anyway, both of you are okay with A?
Yeah.
All right.
Most people are going to be in the top 3 tiers.
Cool. Let's put Abathur in A. Prestige-wise, you want the second one? Or no
I'd
prestige?
say so. Ravagers can deep tunnel if needed.
Alright. Let's put Abathur in A. Let's move on. Alarak, where do we have him?
Waves arms aggressively at invisible enemies. Alarak is very good at killing cloaked things without having to see them. Like, particularly good because of how just massive the damage area of Destructive Wave and Ascendant Orbs is. But, ironically, the guy who's extremely good at not even needing detection to beat this mutation also was really good at detection. He has detection on a warp gate.
Yes.
And he has detection on Cybercore tech, which means he's also really, really good at rushing detection in a way that most commanders aren't.
That's true.
This just wins all around for Alarak. So the only problem with Alarak is that his general map mobility and responsiveness is a little bit low. You kind of need to either have buildings in place to overcharge structures, or have Death Fleet available to teleport you.
I was about to say,
if you have splitting your army is also good. If you have P3, you'll always have the mothership available to teleport you. Or if you don't have P3 and you don't have P2, then your mothership can be dropped down during the bot waves, especially that second to last bot wave, which is the one where you end up having to do the most jumping back and forth. And now you have a 5-second cooldown to teleport your army, so you can just jump back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Is
and
it 5
just
seconds?
Make sure you don't. I believe yes, it is a 5-second cooldown on the teleport, but the mothership only lasts 1 minute, so make sure you don't, end that minute in a really awkward spot. Otherwise, you're gonna have a little bit of a walk.
For us, it's more of a float. They don't really walk.
Well, your supplicants have to walk.
That's true, but they're supplicants. Who cares
and
about
Alarak
them?
walks.
Who cares about Alarak? Let her.
He walks menacingly.
Menacingly.
He's just standing there. Menacingly!
Anyways, I think the sluggishness of Alarak's general movement around keeps him out of S tier, but that does just dump him in A tier. He's really good.
Alright. How about you, Zero?
Alarak's kind of just like Abathur with the Ravagers, except he kills more, way easier. So, yeah, I think A tier is fine for him. Sticksbender pretty much highlighted everything.
Alright, unanimous A tier. That's all three of us putting him in A tier. Prestige-wise, you want a third one still, right? You still want a third one.
I'd say so.
Alright, let's move on. Arcturus, where do we have him?
Arcturus, so in case you run out of detection, you can just build them with troopers, which is very nice.
Very nice.
As for, like, Yeah, early game won't really be an issue. I assume you're just gonna go like P3 here, because the main threat will be the early game. Although the threat is a bit of an overstatement. So yeah, you have bunkers. You probably will just drop a turret next to them, and that will handle most the early game waves. Later on, you'll just make ESO, so who cares about detection? And yeah,
Won't
you can
the
contaminated strike.
won't the
Go on.
enemies drop around your Earth splitters, which means you have to defend them?
If you put troopers inside them, which is why you put laborers.
Oh, that's cool. I forgot you can do that.
I didn't know that.
I
At
forgot you
least
could do that.
I think that's how it works. That's how I usually do it, at least.
That's very
That works
smart.
for
I
me.
like that. I like that.
Fascinating.
All right, continue.
So yeah, contaminated strike will of course decloak enemies, so that's nice.
Wow.
Yeah, he has good time killing people without needing detection. He has very strong bunkers as a front line for those ESO, so the bots don't get targeted. He has relatively easy way to get up detection with his troopers by just mass producing a missile turret on the field.
That's
So yeah, I
true.
have him in S tier personally.
S tier. How about you, Sticksbender?
Personally, I probably would just consider ESOs a little bit too annoying to use and might even not use them. But other than that, basically the same thing. You have a ball of troopers, they can summon detection on the spot. Many of the bunker upgrades apply to your missile turrets as well, which is why Manx's missile turrets are actually very chunky. They're
Wow.
mucho durable. So, yeah, and you can summon missile turrets on the battlefield for detection. But not only that, we didn't mention this. The Imperial Witness has one of the biggest detection radius of any unit in the game, because when you have them sieged up, that entire blimp aura, they have vision and detection over that entire radius. It's huge.
That's huge. Oh my goodness, that's huge.
It's huge. Yeah. So Manx is really, really solid for detection. He drops units from the sky constantly, and he has a top bar to instantly drop a bunch of buildings from the sky, or Zerg from the sky, or nukes from the sky if ever anything goes wrong. Yeah, I think Manx can safely go in S tier.
All right, both of you. I personally like Arcturus in A tier, but both of you said S tier, so let's put Arcturus in S tier. Artanis, where do we have him?
So Artanis can also summon detection, and his detection lingers permanently, and it's invisible, which is helpful. It's like Alarak. The difference between Artanis and Alarak is Artanis has to tech up more to get his detection. He does not have a hero unit at the beginning of the game to stabilize the early game. So there's that. And
How about Archon dudes?
the advantage, he does have Archon dudes, which is top bar energy. It will solve the early game for you. It is top bar energy. So basically Artanis is just like, literally between Artanis and Alarak, this mutation, it's like, I'm you, but slightly worse in almost every way. The only real advantage Artanis has over Alarak is the fact that he can just conjure Power Field and then summon a bunch of dudes. And if you want to, you could go P2 Artanis with Mass Dragoon and Zealots if the enemy composition requires it. And then you can be able to teleport between the bots your entire army.
Which
With
costs
no
energy.
cooldown, as long as it costs energy. But as long as you have energy, it does have no cooldown. And as
That's
we
true.
mentioned, towards the later bots and missed opportunities, the game slows way the heck down. So if you're just like refusing to spend top bar energy between bot waves, you will have enough energy during the bot waves that you can just teleport on top of every single wave. So, there is that.
Plus, that teleporting is a good way to reinforce your ally if he needs help.
Yeah. And if you don't have P2, then you just can literally summon the power field, warp in a bunch of dudes. Works especially well if you like the Zealot Templar style that I like to use.
Yeah.
I would say I still stand by Artanis is like Alarak, but slightly worse. But I don't know if he's a whole tier worse, so I might still put him in A tier.
Okay. How about you, Zero?
So you can go like P1 here to. So you're still like slightly worse Alarak, but you could at least kill guys without having to see them. So that's a bonus.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course his mobility I think is slightly better. Not because he just teleports around, but because he can just warp guys where he needs them.
Yes.
Plus of Archon dudes. So yeah, I think he's A tier still. He's slightly different than Alarak.
Maybe low A tier if you guys decide. Anyway,
Yeah.
A tier is A tier. Both of you guys agree? Let's put Artanis at A tier. Prestige wise, you still want the third one, right?
Either P1 or P3.
Oh,
I think
first
both
one.
are fine here.
I would personally run P2 on this
Second
mutation,
one.
but yeah.
Okay, so just use whichever you
Anything
prefer.
works. Honestly, anything works. The key points for Artanis this mutation is you have a power field, which you do either way, and if you use P2, it's just a teleport field instead, and you can summon observers at will, which every prestige can do. So
But wait, how does Artanis see the first wave? Does he just drop Archon dudes, or does he just
you
rush a cannon?
You can technically get a robo out fast enough if you really rush it, or you can rush a cannon. Either
Might
option
wreck your
works.
build though. Artanis needs to be greedy in the early game.
You do if you don't have P3, you kind of have to wreck your early build in order to get detection for the first
Painful.
wave, which is a little annoying. And if you do have P3, you have to just drop Archon dudes blindly and just have them just stand there hugging the invisible wave until they accidentally kill it through radiation poisoning.
That's true.
Um,
So is that still A tier, given all that? Like,
I think so.
Okay.
yeah,
Even if your build is altered, it's not the end of the world. Like Artanis can solve like rifts with an altered build by going like gateway first. It's really not that bad.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Worst case scenario, you kind of just go with the old Artanis builds where you used to do Zealot Expand, and then you just get to rush up to Robo with the Zealot Expand.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's move on. Karax, where do we have him?
Karax shouldn't have too many issues. You could just make buildings that can see, and you can make lots of them very fast with one probe. Yeah, and just make lots and lots of buildings, and just in case, for some reason, you need to kill something that you can't see, despite the fact that you can see everywhere with cannons that summon everywhere instantly, your top bar can just kill things that you can't see anyways, just to be safe.
Yes.
Which includes Solar Lance and Purifier Beam, which have a very hard time missing.
Yes.
Karax should be completely fine. And he has observers just as a bonus, and I always kind of give bonus points to observers and we move unseen because having an invisible detector is actually really good.
Oh yeah.
Because Amon is not as good at hunting down observers as you might think, because they don't draw aggro the way that cloaked attacking units do, where like if you damage Amon with a cloaked attacking unit, then it'll summon like him. He has a special F2 button that only grabs detectors, and then he presses that button and sends them all there. But observers don't attack him, so that doesn't happen. They can still get detected by incidental detection, but it doesn't happen as much, which is why I always kind of lead towards giving a small bonus towards observers every time a We Move Unseen comes up. So anyways, Karax is S tier. You summon cannons literally everywhere. You glass things with top bar, and you just generally have a very easy time.
All right. How about you, Zero?
Play some Mirage in the corner. Half of the hardest mutator is dealt with.
True! Bottom left
P3
corner.
top bar should just be able to solve this map.
You don't even need the cannons. The cannons are just to make it easier.
Yeah. So yeah, S tier.
S tier. All right.
Maybe double S, honestly. I'm not fully opposed to it.
Ooh, we never had a catch in double S. We'll see.
I'd consider it. But...
Prestige-wise, which one do you want?
3.
Anything but P2. If you're P2, you literally lose S tier status.
All right, fair. Let's move on. Kerrigan, where do we have him?
Kerrigan, so yeah, those worms, they're pretty damn good. They stall a lot, they give you detection, they give you really good mobility.
Omnipresence, I call
enemies aren't actually buffed here, so Kerrigan should be able to just solve it by herself. You can make units for support if you really want to, it's not required. Yeah, I have her in S tier.
Okay, how about you, Sticksbender?
Yeah, pretty much. Worm go brr.
Worm go brr. No, more like that. No. Yes. Brr is more like. yeah. Worm don't go brr. Worm go rah. Okay. Anyway, Kerrigan go S. There you go. Kerrigan go S.
Kerrigan go S. Worm go scrim.
What?
Scrim.
I never heard a worm noise. Do they actually make noises, or are they just
Then
so quiet to the point where
they
you don't hear
scream
them?
loudly when you deploy them, and that is
Well,
it.
they use the Wilhelm scream when they deploy.
More like an angry battle cry scream, but yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, prestige wise, what do we want here?
2, 3, probably the best options, so we don't get screwed with the enemy's air.
Okay.
0 can
Yeah.
also work, kind of.
Yeah, 0
just
can
not
also work.
P1.
Yeah, P1 loses S status, same as Karax. There is a actually I want to be bad prestige button.
Actually, I want to be bad prestige. Okay. Let's move on. Nova, where do we have him?
Nova is a portable detector who's pretty mobile. Unless you pick P3, then she's a lot slower, but she technically is still mobile. She's just slow. And she has ravens, and she has missile turrets. Hooray! Wow, lots of nice things.
Here's
Anyways,
airstrike, in case you want to style.
and she has airstrike. Quick question: can defense drones still shield bots?
No.
I seem to remember they used to be able to do that.
They
but
used
I
to
can't remember
be.
if they fixed it.
Oh my goodness. I did not know that. I need to
The
see that.
Stetmann
Yes.
one still does, I think.
But I think.
Nova can have good things like that.
Are you
feel
sure
like
it's a
it was
defensive drone, or did the bot just shield itself?
no. The defense drone used to be able to shield bots. I know that this used to be the case.
I need to see that then. I haven't seen that. Okay,
Keep in
something to
mind, I
test.
know this used to be the case because of way back the first time that growing threat rolled around ages ago. I think that was when I found this out, or was
That's
it like
funny.
the second mutation that was on this map? Like it was one of the first mutations on this map. On the first mutation roll around, that's the distinct memories I have. But like there were times when we literally had bots where the defense plan was Nova just summoned 3 defense drones behind the bot, and the bot had the aggro. So it just lived
I think this is
for
the
like
second.
the whole time. It was silly.
I think this one is the second missed opportunities mutation. The first one is growing threat. I think this is the second one.
Anyways, point is, yeah, like if they can still do that, because they couldn't do it on most map objectives, but they could do it specifically to the harvesting bots. If the defense drones can still do that, then that would be really good for Nova. But I don't know that they still can. That might have been fixed. Anyways,
I wish they could do that on top of the past, so that we'll never have to do anything else.
that
Just
would
spam
that
the
would be
message
nice.
on the temple.
Anyways, yes. So, point is, Nova has a lot of good things. I don't know if she's S tier or not, because like she's really good. But then you look at the people in S tier, it's like they're really, really good. So I'd probably put Nova as like high A tier.
How about you, Zero?
So I personally had her S tier. You have to be slightly careful with your units so they don't get like scourged. But even then, you have ravens on
Oh yeah,
Liberator. Ravens are
if there's
detectors
Scourge,
gone.
I just go barracks. I just go spooky boys, marines.
But then you have less ravens.
Yeah, but then Nova can just summon herself with Nova with a shotgun is pretty fast. Also, missile turrets still exist, so
Sure, I don't know. I'd rather have Nova like the other side, so she can defend other bots. But I guess there's like full only one bot set where you actually do that, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think she's still S tier personally.
you can use P1 or 2 Nova.
Wow.
Actually, if you use P2 Nova, we mentioned that the bot waves come every 30 seconds, and P2 Nova reduces the Griffin airlift cooldown to 30 seconds.
So you can just teleport whenever you need to be, whenever you need to be there.
Hooray!
That solves it. Just be there. So,
guys, we found a use case for P2 Nova.
well, we had
Still
that.
probably gonna get outshined by P1.
Probably.
Okay, so is it A or S?
I think it's A. Nova's like really, really good until I try to compare her to Worms, and then it's like, well, she's not that good.
Yeah, that's fair. I
Okay.
think she's slightly outshined by other S tiers.
Well, we have a rule here. If it's not unanimous, it's not
Yeah.
S. So Nova goes down to A tier. Prestige wise, first one. Or do you want
First
third
or
one?
second one could be an option. I would not recommend third one because
Yeah, you want the blast.
Sniper
there's
Nova
nothing
is
to
so
fear.
much slower than Shotgun Nova, and it's really nice if your detector is not slow.
You want the cone of death. Okay.
No, honestly, more than the Cone of Death, you just want the ability to have a higher base move speed and 3 charges of a teleport, which also just makes you tanky as an added bonus.
Nova is actually a Zeratul stalker. He's just triple blink.
She's just like the whole advantage of shotgun mode. Like the fact that it's a Cone of Death and gives you splash damage and solves Zerglings really, really well, that's all added bonus. The biggest thing is that it is a fast-moving detector hero.
Yes.
Who you can instantly resummon anywhere on the map with vision if ever she dies for some reason.
Nova is the most expendable Nova unit. Let's move on. Boy, where do we have him?
Super Gary. Yeah, that guy's a detector. He stays with your army pretty much all the time, so that won't really be an issue. You don't need to split because you just run like
Just blue zone.
160% faster.
And you have teleport.
You can also teleport, yeah. So that's a thing. So yeah, mobility won't be an issue. Power, yeah, this guy has power. So that's not an issue. You can heal your ally, so that helps your ally deal with his aggressive deployment. Yeah, I think he's just S tier again, like always.
You guys are making armies? I didn't know Super Gary even needed any friends. I thought he could just win the mission by himself.
He is the friend.
He is the friend. He's the bestest buddy.
You kind of want Zergus to clean up the buildings, though. Like, come on.
Oh yeah, you want them to draw aggro and cause aggressive deployment to drop on top of Gary.
Yes,
primarily.
It's like the Kerrigan situation. You can make units, and it's probably good to make units, but you really don't need to.
Yeah.
Kind of want
the only difference is Kerrigan at least has worms to pull aggro. With Gary, yeah, you probably want the Zerglings to pull aggro. But the thing is, they're very fast. You have blue zone to make them even faster. You have green zone to make them indestructible. It's Zerglings. They have no tech. You just need a spawning pool, and then you can just make them. And they respawn. Actually, that could be one thing. If your Zerglings die, they respawn at the spawning pool, and if your spawning pool doesn't have a rally point on Gary, now the wave deploys in the middle of your main base. And then everyone gets to laugh at you. Fun fact, you can actually set a rally point for the spawning pool, so you might want to do that, so that the Zerglings don't sit around in your base ready to bait a aggressive deployment wave into summoning at the worst possible location. Oh yeah, and just in case, Super Gary can teleport, because he needed that, I guess, apparently, for some reason, when he already had blue zone.
I think we need to buff Super Gary. I think Super Gary needs a nuke ability and a garden shell.
Yes.
He already has a nuke ability, doesn't he?
Stetmann is the fastest to build a detection from his workers. In case you need more of that at your base.
True! Well, sort of. Technically, you're going to get beat out by, like, a Manx if he's got 10 dudes.
Well, if you're, like, mass building it, sure.
Yeah, but...
If it's one worker, then yeah.
Technically, Karax builds it instantly, but he's pretty fast. Stetmann's pretty fast. He's faster than most.
All right, so... Letter.
Yeah, he's S tier.
How about you, Zero?
It's S tier.
All right, S tier for Stet Boy. Nothing new. Stukov, where do we have him?
I love spamming zombies. Anyways, you have detection. You have detection of 2 flavors. You can send overseers everywhere, and you should. And you can also make your dudes into detectors with queens. Yay! Which I strongly advocate for all the time.
Queens
because
are awesome.
It's actually really good.
And you can buff, and you can make Raynor great by making his units detectors.
Yay!
Yeah.
Oh, also, one thing with the detection from the queens, it extends the vision radius of the unit by 5, and then turns that entire vision radius into detection radius. The reason this is relevant is because specifically the Hyperion and Alexander have insanely large vision radiuses.
Oh my goodness.
So they now can detect like an area bigger than the area you can see on your screen.
Oh, that's so good. That's insane.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So yeah, queens are great. Your missile turrets are actually pretty good. They regenerate health and they can move. They can walk around. They're only detect when they're rooted into the floor, but they can move. And also, you have a top bar, which is literally just add extra bodies to draw aggro for this missile turret, so the missile turret doesn't die, and also potentially even just overpower the wave, because actually, no, really, Spawn Broodling's scary, it's strong. Yeah. Stukov is easily A tier. I don't think he's like S tier good, because like he still has to. Well, no, his detection's really good, and his ability to summon, especially if you are, using Spawn Broodlings on buildings you have around the map, or if you're using bunkers around the map that are going to just absolutely rip apart any kind of attack. Yeah, there's an argument for S tier Stukov, I would say, but at least A tier.
Okay, how about you, Zero?
Yeah, Symbiote's good. I advise you probably just go like P1 here, because Symbiotes are kind of going to get wasted if you're just using them on P3 troopers.
That's true. That's very true.
Good. Overseers are good. Your turrets can actually just relocate themselves, so you can build them at your base, then just deploy them when you get them. Also, if you use a symbiote on an uprooted bunker and then you root it, does that keep the detection?
I have no idea.
Should work.
Oh, that's really cool.
Should work.
You got detecting bunkers then.
That's awesome.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I have him like A tier personally.
Okay, both of you have an A tier. Let's put Stukov in A tier. First prestige, third prestige, both are fine. Let's move on. Swann, where do we have him?
Swann. So he has turrets. He can also do the Karax thing of just making an air unit, then just flying it over a corner.
Hooray!
Yeah.
Just put a wraith in the corner. Forget that the mutator exists. Beautiful stuff.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, then your turrets are of course very good. You have detection turrets that shoot up, so that's nice. Yeah, turrets are good. You won't really have an issue against like even immortals here, just because they're not buffed. So yeah, I have them like S or A tier.
S tier. How about you, Sticksbender?
I don't think he's S tier for the reason of his clearing is really annoying, because like normally you might be able to clear with floating factories. Unfortunately, floating factories cannot see in this case.
They don't have detection.
So you need to use science vessels. Oh, but science vessels pull so much aggro, and they're so fragile, and they're so expensive, and you have to tech up to them. And get upgrades for them.
Do they though draw aggressive deployment?
I don't think so. They don't have an attack.
They shouldn't. Okay.
They shouldn't. Yeah.
Okay.
But they're so fragile and expensive and annoying, and they need upgrades. Ugh.
Do you really need the gas though? What are you gonna be using it on?
To clear.
Or Stet Boy, he needs all the Terrazine.
Yeah, basically the biggest problem for Swann, which is why I don't put him in S tier, is clearing out the areas where around the bots is going to be really annoying. Once it's cleared, it's easy. You just spam a bunch of turrets, you win the game. But actually doing the clearing is going to be so annoying. So I don't think he's S tier for literally that reason.
Okay.
Actually, there's people in A tier who I'd put above Swann because it's just so annoying to clear. So yeah.
Okay, so
but he's A tier. He's A tier because aside from the painful clearing, he's really good at everything else.
Yeah,
literally everything except clearing.
Still really good. How about you, Zero?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Personally, I wouldn't think clearing would be that big of an issue, just because you got 2 top bar dukes, pretty much. But I guess that could require some sort of planning, at least, which is more than most guys have to do. So yeah, I think A tier is fine.
All right, A is still pretty good. Don't get us wrong, guys. A is still really good. It's not an insult to put someone in A when they're really good. A is really good. S is incredible. A is very good. B is pretty good. C is fine. That's what it means. C is not terrible. C is fine. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Tychus, where do we have him?
Tychus himself is not a detector. Some of his outlaws are detectors, but Tychus himself is not a detector, so that's a little bit annoying. Your first outlaw, as always, should be the one who doesn't need an engineering bay upgrade to detect.
The one who's seriously good?
Yeah, the first one you buy should be the one that's seriously good. That's why you seriously buy him in every single game. Seriously.
Who could that be? I don't know who it is.
Anyways, Yeah. You do also have turrets. They're not missile turrets. They're just auto turrets.
Warhound turrets.
Tychus is kind of weirdly strapped for cash because of how he wants to spend his money on permanent outlaw upgrades usually. But towards the late game of missed opportunities, you will max out your upgrades because this map is so unbearably long. Holy smokes, it's so long. So you will max out your upgrades as Tychus generally. So you'll be able to have money for turrets in the late game, which are detectors. And they shoot air and ground. Woo! Because missile turrets usually don't get to shoot ground. Anyways. As a result, I would say all this together, I'd probably put Tychus as A tier because he has an outlaw that is seriously good, and that seriously good outlaw single-handedly pulls Tychus out of the horrible depths of B tier.
Horrible.
Truly.
I literally just said B is pretty good. Come on, don't throw me under the bus here.
Look. When the tier list is this top heavy, we have to make fun of B tier because it's like, oh, the horrible depths of B tier. Oh, whatever shall we do? Poor Tychus and his first world problems. Anyways.
Oh my goodness.
Letter. Yeah, you can go in A tier.
All right.
Medevac, you're seriously good outlaw around the map. Make turret.
Okay. How about you, Zero?
I have him in S tier. Sirius is of course the best tier, and he will carry most of the game, but it's not like your other outlaws are pushovers either, like Tychus. Even if he doesn't have detection, he just one-shots a wave with his grenade at some point. For your other outlaws, you can go like Nux, Vega, which are detectors, and with how relatively weak each individual wave is on missed opportunities, they will solve them without much issue.
How about the fifth outlaw?
Vega, especially.
Who's the fifth outlaw?
If it's ground, you can go like Blaze, and because Blaze ability will decloak them, as far as I know.
Very
correct.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Alternatively, you can just go Nikara. Nikara has eyeballs and can make Tychus punky.
Yeah, sure.
But then you can't use sex prestige.
Yeah, but what else are you gonna do?
I don't know if I would use second prestige personally here. But
I would go P2 personally, like always.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, you're right.
Actually,
P2 unserious. The Tychus just sits at home.
If you don't use the second prestige, you can just have everyone in the ball. I guess you have your usual army loadout because you'll have detection from that guy who's seriously good.
Yeah, and then later you'll have permanent detection without needing to actually cast the manual ability, just in case you weren't looking.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, if it's not unanimous, are you convinced, Sticksbender?
No. There are still people in A tier who are better than Tychus, most notably Nova. So I would put Tychus in A tier.
Okay. Are you gonna make a last ditch effort, Zero?
I mean, he doesn't have to split. Each outlaw just handles a side on his own. He
doesn't have to split.
No issue pushing. He doesn't even have to micro
really
his
better
units.
Than Nova?
Yes, he doesn't really have to micro his guys. Like, there's no real danger to them for getting sniped and eventually worn down. Yeah, he just one-shots waves with a lot of his outlaws, so even like the Ling run-bys that just target your bots won't really be a threat.
Because you just click on them and they die.
Yeah. Okay, will Tychus... Should Tychus be bottom of S, or is he among S tier? What I mean to say is he better than another S tier commander?
No, he's not better than another S tier. But you could say that about the other S guy also. One of them, probably.
Well, someone has to be the bottom of S.
Yeah.
So is that Tychus?
I think so.
Sure, I guess.
So Tychus bottom of S?
Sure.
All right.
Very convincing.
Very convincing. Yes.
It's about the level of convinced I am that Tychus is the best of the people in A tier, but
it's about the same then. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. Vorazun, where do we have him?
Vorazun, so first wave you're probably just gonna get a cannon, because good luck getting an oracle. You probably can if you rush it hard enough, but I don't think it's worth it.
A lolical.
Yeah, for the first bot set, there shouldn't really be too many guys that shoot up. Unless you get Sky Terran, then yeah, good luck. But yeah, so a single oracle will just detect it. And I guess you just handle the actual wave with like Shadow Guard and some DTs, because you should have at least like 2 by that point. Yeah, it won't be the prettiest thing ever. Time Stop decloaks them, which is pretty nice. So yeah, Shadow Guard can at least clear the map. Yeah, the early game at least will be pretty threatening. Like, not only because you actually have to get a proper ratio of both Corsairs and DTs, because I assume you're still gonna want DTs here, even if it's ground. No, not ground, air, because there's gonna be guys on the ground. Yeah, it's just gonna be real awkward early game. Once you get to the late game, though, it's probably pretty smooth.
Yeah.
You got the pylon teleport, black holes, in case you need them. You got
Yeah.
pretty good detection. That's pretty fast, and probably won't be dying a lot just because you make a lot of them, most likely. At least you should. So yeah, I have her like B tier.
B tier. How about you, Sticksbender?
Early game is bumpy. You should be massing Oracle Corsairs, your army composition. You have tons of minerals with which to make cannons because Vorazun always has tons of minerals, so just spamming cannons all over the place is good. You only need 1 probe to make 1,000,000 cannons. You need the build time of the cannons before they are actually able to fight back, but you only need 1 probe. So Vorazun goes into B tier.
All right. So I remember saying that Raynor has a terrible time against mass Phoenix in the second bot wave. What does Vorazun do against the mass Phoenix?
Corsairs do splash damage, Phoenixes do single target damage, and otherwise they are very similar units. Also, the swarm of Phoenixes does kind of, well, you put them in a black hole, and then they all die instantly because Corsairs deal double damage against light, and Phoenixes are light, and the Phoenixes are just all gone, and yeah, there's just 1 black hole to kill them all. And you'll have your second time stop of the game for the second bot wave, assuming you used your first one like early enough. And that'll have meant you get an extra 20 seconds from having used your first time stop because that slows down all the map triggers, so you have time to build more Corsairs. You should have plenty of Corsairs that, with the help of your top bar...
How plenty is plenty?
Yeah, well, how much gas you have, but like, because of the fact that Corsairs do splash damage and Phoenixes do not, if you are using black holes like relatively liberally, 5 or 6 Corsairs is plenty, and if you want to be stingy on black holes, like 10 to 12 Corsairs is plenty.
Okay, Vorazun B tier. Vorazun has only 1 prestige, the third one. Let's move on. Zagara, what do we have?
She's not great at seeing. Like, she has overseers. They're kind of mediocre. Like, there's nothing really good about them specifically, and her army is expendable, which means her overseers have a habit of dying horribly. Her hero isn't a detector. She can spit banelings at things, that'll kill even cloaked units without seeing them at least. But that's like a consolation prize when you don't have detection on the hero. Honestly, it's just going to be a whole lot of static defense and then bringing overseers with your army. She has all the tools to do everything, but it's like in the same way as Raynor and Han and Horner have all the tools to do everything, so I'd put Zagara in B tier.
Okay. How about you, Zero?
Yeah, I think B tier is fine. Her detection is very awkward. Also, when you're rallying links to the fray from your base, there's a chance the aggressive deployment just spawns there, and then you have no detection there, so you have to scramble your whole army. So yeah, that's fun.
Also, your Baneling Nest just spawning units randomly in your base, and then suddenly, oh no!
Yeah.
No,
I
guys.
guess she could possibly use bio launchers, but that just seems very
Bio
difficult.
launchers!
No
Yeah,
space.
honestly, bio launchers are fine because your whole thing is you're just going to throw a swarm of dudes at clearing the base, and then you're going to just spam stack defense around the bot spots. Because that's your best detection is just spam a bunch of spore crawlers.
No,
so
guys.
if you just have spines and spores everywhere.
You guys are wrong. You guys are both wrong. Zagara's S tier because the guys in the comments said so.
Alright, yeah, just use P1 and that completely solos this whole map. There's nothing that can go wrong.
Actually, I had the Hakaburger play as Zagara here, and he had just overseers everywhere. Like everywhere. You saw that, right?
Zagara actually has a surprising amount of money if you're not having to solo, because like she has enough money to solo, but if that's with exploding units, so if your units aren't exploding because you're not soloing, well, now you have enough money to just overseers everywhere, especially if you're also using your hero unit to your full capacity. The reality is, even in solos, sometimes Zagara can literally max out without building a single combat unit from a larva because her Baneling nest generates that many Banelings before she needs to use a single unit because her hero can handle the first like half of the mission. So
yes,
yeah,
I never use my I never buy any Balings or Scourge until like halfway through this mission. I just use the free ones.
Yeah. So, and in this case, good news. You know how Zagara is all supply blocked all the time? Well, guess what? You can make buildings.
Yes.
No longer do you have to worry about 100 supply cap for spine crawlers and spore crawlers. Don't need supply, so you just make more.
Yes.
Also, your drones are half a supply, so that's cool.
Very cool indeed. Okay, so letter for Zagara.
Oh, just B tier.
Yeah, B tier.
Let me know, guys, in the comments. I said Zagara's S tier, and these two monsters up here.
And if you want your life to be easier, don't use P1 because P1 will just straight up make your life harder because losing the hero unit is not worth it if you're going for the strongest. Like, it can be fun to just have P1 Zagara because Massive Swarm go burr, but it's like only ever optimal over having a hero if you're just in a really, really committed Scourge cheese map. And that's it. Otherwise, it's just better to have a hero unit.
That being said, it is pretty fun to
comments.
It is pretty fun to play P1 Zagara here.
It is pretty fun to play P1 Zagara.
Especially when you have an ally. If you have an ally, you'll have no problems whatsoever. Let's move on. Zeratul, where do you have them?
Yeah, cannons, they're detectors. They can warp anywhere. Not warp, but project. You know what I mean? He also has the very big radius observers, so he'll be seeing half the map. Also letting your allies see half the map, so yeah, he won't need detection also. He definitely has the power to deal with everything.
Yes.
Like Sticksbender said, the hero unit just blinks around, so you don't even have to be in position. If you want to go for units, like alongside the observers, you can just void a race on each bot, and then just jump around wherever you're needed. Doesn't even have to be on the bot, just the spawn points, if you clear that much, also work. So yeah, I have him S tier.
And he can even leverage the fact that it's a really long map to be able to scale infinitely with P2. You can get 11 artifacts on this map.
I've never gotten 11 artifacts on this map. You probably can.
I got 11 when I was doing this one challenge long ago with 10 random mutators on this map.
10.
It was a really, really hard set of 10. It was not an easy set of 10 mutators, and I ended up on the final winning run that we finally did. I got to 11 artifacts because I just had to beat that on top of artifacts in order to be strong enough.
That is insane.
Yeah. So, and at that point, I got to have the funny and surreal experience of seeing a phoenix shooting my observer and thinking, is that a hallucinated phoenix? It's not doing any damage. And then finally realizing, oh, it's because I have 13 armor. Oh!
Crazy. Oh my goodness. All right, letter.
Oh, like, Zeratul is like the best commander in the entire game for this. The easiest S tier ever.
S tier. Okay. So now we have the commanders in their tiers, respectively. Do we have a double S?
If we do, it's Zeratul.
Okay.
Zeratul's really good.
So we don't have a double S.
I don't think so.
Who's top of
S? Mutation is really easy, so like a few guys could be double S depending on. There's
enough people. There's enough people in S that it makes it hard for like Zeratul to have like a huge gap from all the other S commanders.
Double S is like Arcturus on Oblivion Express. That's our standard for double S. Like you can just leap walk through it. He's so transcendently good. He's an S tier among S tiers. If that makes sense.
Well, I mean, if we're talking like comparable to Arcturus on Oblivion Express, well, then Zeratul might be double S. Like, seriously, you just cannons good the entire mission. And even if for some reason you don't have detection somewhere, Zeratul could just spin and the wave explodes.
I'm not opposed to it.
All right, there you go.
Normal Zeratul behavior, honestly.
Zeratul double S tier. Who's top of S?
Now that Zeratul's gone, more of an interesting discussion.
Kerrigan?
Step boy.
I would put Kerrigan above Step Boy for sure.
Really?
Honestly, Karax can also be a very good option.
I guess that
would
makes sense
say-
because Kerrigan can always just rally straight into the Omega Worm, so she never actually has to worry about drops in her base.
Well, not
Yeah,
only
but
that, but
Karax
like
gets rid of half the mutator.
summoning tanking units is in fact really good. Like Kerrigan just being able to summon worms in the path of the wave,
That's
very
true.
good.
That's
It's
true.
between Karax and Kerrigan for sure.
But Karax or Kerrigan?
I personally would probably prefer Kerrigan, but like, I think that's kind of personal preference.
I think Karax, you don't have to do as much hero micro, and if you lose your
They're
hero,
like-
Kerrigan's just kind of punishing still.
They're apples to orange, and they're coin flip levels of close. So
Yeah.
we could use glowy eyes.
Glowy eyes. Temporal
Glowy
glowy.
eyes.
Glowy eyes.
Karax is slightly
Anyways.
glowier. All right.
Karax is slightly glowier, yeah.
So who's third in S?
Karax has suns in his eyes. Anyways,
He has
third
solarite in his
place-
eyes.
Yes. Third place, again, it's kind of hard to make a direct comparison because
Let's say
Mengsk is a lot
Stetmann.
like Karax and Stetmann is a lot like Kerrigan.
Yeah, Mengsk doesn't have space lasers though.
Mengsk doesn't have space lasers. Stetmann doesn't have Wall of
Nukes.
Worm. I think Stetmann's still probably better than Mengsk. Yeah, having the speed zone everywhere. Yeah, no, Stetman's third.
All right. And then Tychus bottom?
Yeah.
All right. Who's top of A?
Nova.
Yeah, probably Nova. There's
Ben?
an argument for some other people, but it's probably Nova. Next up would be
Abathur?
no, definitely not. I would say Stukov.
Oh yeah, the buff thing. Oh, the
Yeah,
Brood
yeah.
Queen's. Brood Queen's really good. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, Brood Queen's really good.
Then
What
And
about
then I
Swann?
would say
Alarak?
I would say Alarak, and then Artanis was slightly worse Alarak.
like this.
I'd say Swann deserves above Artanis just because he gets rid of half the
No.
mutator.
I think that Swann's pain point on clearing is enough that I would say no.
Really?
Also,
you just nuke the base. if you're top
Also,
guy.
I also there will be a lot of Swann players who will just use units anyway, so they don't get rid of half the mutator. So there's that.
I'm one of them. I will absolutely use units because units are fun.
You could say that about a lot of things, but just playing the commander wrong, he's not as good.
I mean, the reason I'm making the distinction is because it's technically cheesing the mutator, so it's like, eh.
I mean, a lot
It
of
is-
things-
I will
It-
make units.
It is
Units are fun.
okay. It's a bug exploit. I would argue. That's the reason I'm saying it's like
It's not a
it's
bug.
a really, really easy to exploit bug,
It's not a bug.
but like I would definitely call it a bug.
No.
But it's also really easy to exploit.
a bug is something
And
that
it's a
doesn't
bug
work.
that we've allowed to be a feature because no one really wants to complain about it because, like,
Because exploit bugs is fun.
yeah.
Well, here's
Kind
the
of same
thing.
as with the
Alan
Phoenix
Border
thing with
gets
his
on
Arcturus.
fire
Speaking of, I
and
would put
against the
Phoenix above
eminent
one, too.
domain. It's like, why shouldn't Swann be ranked higher by abusing aggressive deployment?
I would say that even if Swann can abuse aggressive deployment, technically, Artanis could also abuse aggressive deployment if you're using P3. Because realistically, you could do Archon Cannon. You'd be surprised what you can do with just cannons. But
Cannon's good.
yeah, even without any bonuses, like seriously, you'd be surprised what you can do with just basic vanilla cannons.
With shield overcharge.
But with shield overcharge, with Archon dudes, yeah. Anyways, this is kind of sidetracking. I would say that Swann's inability to clear is like, it's like, yeah, you can, find a way to disable one of the mutators at the cost of not having any combat units, which makes clearing even more annoying.
That's true.
And the trade-off is that you're just kind of bad at something that's fundamental to the mission, like even without mutators. Well, it's because of we move unseen. It is because of one of the mutators. But like clearing it actually is something that like can come up. I think admittedly, like it'll only really come up if either you are having to be soloing or carrying a really useless ally. If you have a useful ally, it's not going to come up. The fact that Swann's bad at clearing, but he is really quite bad at clearing. So if it does come up, it could sting pretty hard. And I would say that like even if he has to deal with aggressive deployment because you will generally use units, I'd say Artanis is still pretty good. Being able to remember, Artanis can still summon detection, and Swann cannot summon detection. Unless you use P3, in which case your sciences have tactical jump. But
Artanis can summon detection.
Artanis can literally summon detection for himself or his ally, and Phoenix can do the same thing.
But have you considered?
And Phoenix can teleport himself and his ally.
But have you considered?
20-second cooldown.
Swann has gas drones.
Oh, the gas drones. Oh my goodness.
One less missile turret you can make.
Yes. True.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
We can call it high. It's not, if they're close, we can call it high.
I don't think it's that close because I think the summon detection is a big deal personally. So I would literally put Phoenix between Artanis and Swann.
Like this?
Personally. Yeah. And then for Abathur, I don't think Abathur needs to go above Swann, but could. But nah. Because like early biomath, yes, you do have a spore crawler. Yes, you do bait things into toxic gas. But you also now have to, instead of looking at visible enemies for baiting into toxic gas, you have to look at shimmers and hope that you're good enough at looking at shimmers to see the enemies. And then you forgot to bring your glasses. Now you just can't do your early biomass farming as Abathur.
It's a free eyesight test.
You lost your reading glasses last time you used them, and you just don't remember where you put them, and then that's basically the problem with Abathur. So I think this is the order I would put it in, like for the whole of A tier.
What do you think?
I guess the whole swap thing just depends on how confident you feel in clearing. Like I don't think I have much issue clearing course, but I can see how people can.
I would still say they're all really close, and depending on what skills you are good at, you can
it's all A
flip
tier.
them around. They're all A tier. They're all great, commanders. A is great, guys. Speaking of, B is good. Who's top of B?
Honestly, the only thing I'd consider swapping in B is maybe Vorazun and Zagara could switch, but I'm not actually sure if I want to switch them or not. Hunter Horner is definitely the best. Rainer is definitely second.
Yeah, honestly, I think this Vorazun's the worst. This mutation.
I think Vorazun's definitely the worst. Oh, you know what? Yeah. Put Vorazun
she's not
C.
that bad. She's not that.
Yeah, she's not C tier. She's definitely still B.
She's not C tier. Okay.
I would say I could see Zagara being worse than Vorazun. No, because
there's no way.
No, Zagara is not worse than
Vorazun is the worst. If the main challenge is detection, then Vorazun is always the worst.
Yeah, it do be like that though.
Imagine having worse detection than the guy who doesn't have a detection unit.
True.
He does have detection turrets, though.
Imagine being worse than the detection guy who doesn't even have a detection unit when your whole thing is invisibility.
Poor Vorazun. Buff Hot and Horner. I still say Buff Hot and Horner. Anyway, guys.
Yeah, obviously.
Guys, that is a tier list for this week. Watch Sticksbender's channel. I will link it down below. We'll see you guys next time.